Ready, sir?
Good evening. We want to thank you for being with us at this Slaco celebration of 40 years this evening. My name is Father Jerry Kleba, and I am a retired priest of the Archdiocese of St. Louis.
My name is Gina Ryan. I started working at Slaco in 1981. I came to work here, was recruited to come by the first director, Sister Mary Dolan, who I'd known before. We were organizing friends, and she knew I had an inclination to work on housing, and that was part of what she thought was the challenges facing her taking on the role of executive director. And she was an educator, so I came in as a housing person. Well, I think probably one of the most significant things that I was involved in on the housing side, we were tasked with finding a development partner or somebody that would build houses. And we found the Vatterott Company by doing some research with home builders, and quickly found out that at that point there were very few that were interested in doing what we were. And the Vatterott family had a history of putting back into the community, and they were in some ways waiting for the opportunity that came with our invitation. And so that was terrific. So right away, Greg Vatterott then said, "You will go meet with my cousin Pat Kelly, and you'll start to look at some vacant lots, and we'll get going." And so that's kind of how it started. I looked at some drawings of things that were starting places, and we went such a long way from that point, but that was the start. Oh, I think the thing that you could really see the difference in was the Gate District, where we actually had a joint venture with the Vatterott Company and home builders, and took neighborhoods that had been written off and people and were vacant lots, and built new homes for families.
Excellent.
Slaco was just a wonderful opportunity for me. Not only could I got to work on doing housing development, which is something that I grew up with. I mean, I'm the granddaughter of a Lithuanian home builder, and to kind of build on my own roots. That was terrific, and to finally see something change in the community, that was fabulous as well. Oh, I greatly appreciate all the opportunities that Slaco gave me. I met wonderful people, terrific friends, terrific people that were collaborators with that I would never have had the opportunity to meet any other way. Carol Johnson, Julius Fuse, Greg Vatterott, these are wonderful people that they were opportunities that came to me only because Slaco made it happen.
I'm Greg Vatterott. I'm president of Charles F. Vatterott Construction Company. I was an advisory director. I was asked and interviewed by Sister Dolan and Gina Ryan to assist them in one of their Slaco's goals was to rebuild their neighborhoods, and we agreed to participate. After the invitation and the acceptance, it was Slaco's responsibility to identify areas in which they would like to have some assistance. And ours was essentially the simplest, and that was we would then be in a position to purchase the ground that they've identified, design the products, and build them. We had, when I was interviewed, I wanted to know more about what Slaco was, to find out that they represented a number of organizations neighborhood organizations. And they were a not-for-profit, and they had this mission that to improve the community. And one of the examples that they gave me, which I have used in national presentations to the Home Builders Association, the National Association, was their effort of getting rid of glass from these super large beer bottles that they would find on vacant lots and would cause a number of injuries when in their community. The glass just didn't get picked up, it got broken up. And they were able to get the brewery to stop distributing these large glass containers. And the brewery said, if you can get the city to allow us to sell a large aluminum, and I think it's a 24-ounce beer can. And so Slaco was able to do that. They marshaled the forces and got the neighborhoods and got the aldermen involved and were able to get the changes made. And sure enough, Anheuser-Busch stopped distributing these large glass beer containers. I guess our greatest challenge would fall into the political column in the sense of getting aldermanic support for the various efforts, rebuilding efforts. Some aldermen did not like apartments. They wanted new homes. And some aldermen wanted new homes that would cost, $300,000. So again, contrary to, at that time, the goal was to have housing opportunities for a lower income, more affordable, and that was a big challenge. We got tremendous cooperation from the city, and that what I attribute to the efforts that Slaco and their staff made. And we had I would say, the usual result in that we were successful in accomplishing what we said we were going to do. I do thank Slaco for this award, fully recognizing that it was because of a lot of hard work and tremendous people. Alec Chandler, Fred Rogers, Sister Dolan, a lot of Julius Fuse, a lot of individuals that were part of the Slaco organization who did not particularly care to have any recognition. They just did the best that they could to improve their neighborhoods. We were a very willing participant. I think we played a small part in that success. I would like to also recognize and acknowledge the tremendous job that our inner city parishes do. I can't name all of the priests, but to Father Kleba, we have Father Bob Gettinger. We have just a tremendous number of clerics. I think Sister Dolan sort of phased her activities out in the early 90s. But it was their perseverance that continued the mission. And Father Creason, just tremendous individuals. And their imprint on the Slaco mission was also very important to us. And for that, I'm very grateful.
Well, Mike, I've been involved in the Slaco organization I think way before its beginning, and when it was beginning. I've been around for 46 years in the North City and have been at various parishes and always appreciated an organization that was in some way trying to better the conditions of our people in North St. Louis. And I just want to be part of that. So I go back as long as Slaco's been around. I am not one that has really formed their groups. I remember 26 years ago when I became pastor of St. Augustine, and incidentally, I'm Father Bob Gettinger, and I'm the pastor here at St. Augustine for the last 26 years. And we had, when we came together, we had 5 little churches, and 4 of them had Slaco. And then we turned it into an organization that was just for these 4 parishes, plus the Notre Dame and Wellston area, but mainly the 4 parishes, and we called it BREM, which were the name of the churches that this church now represents. It was St. Barbara, St. Rose, St. Edward, and St. Mark, and they all became one. And that's when we had the little Slaco organizations, which I tried to support a bit. So just been around Slaco. I don't claim any real leadership or working with the problems, except I'm always around. And my main ministry all those years was just helping people individually. Well, Mike, back in 1992 when we started this parish, and we had 4 Slaco community organizations which we tried to support in little ways to just solve the difficult problems of housing and good services from the city. And we had the attention of the mayor, and we invite him to our annual Slaco meeting, and he'd show up, and I can still remember Mayor Harmon especially showing up, and because this is some organization that was speaking pretty strongly to let's make it a better community, and let's help the north side as much as we help the south side, which sometimes it fell a little short on the north side. Maybe due to all its problems that it had, but we still needed lots more help. So I'm sort of thinking that since in my organization, flowing from the parish was just an outreach. If we gave 3,000 food baskets away at Christmas time, that means we know probably 3,000 people. And then some people decided that instead of the Christmas basket, they'd like a certificate for shoes or winter clothing. And we probably had 700 of those. So besides the 3,000, we'd probably help another 700 people with the clothing situation. And then helping 30 people 3 times a week, that's 90, and then we always help about 100. So 100 times 50 weeks of the year, or maybe a little less than 50. Well, that's 50 times, what is that? 50 times 30 would be 15,000 folks we would probably see during the year. Some we see more than once or twice. I think with being recognized as the community, and the Catholic community did their part for Slaco, and I'm so glad it was an ecumenical effort. But kind of, I would say, in a background, I didn't really make Slaco work, but I don't know why I get the award, except I've been around and being with the people and their problems and trying to help them a little bit. So that's where I sort of maybe fit in. Okay, well, they're giving me an award, and I didn't do anything in the organization too much except be a cheerleader and help ordinary people. I spent my time doing that because I like people, and I certainly am interested in whoever I meet and wanting them to have the love of Christ in their heart. And so I wanted to see Jesus in each person. So I appreciate getting an award. I don't know why, but this is what I did do, but not really helping Slaco do all their projects, except being around and loving everybody and encouraging them. That's where maybe I fit in.
Okay, so I'm Nancy Thompson. I'm a previous executive director of Slaco, and I am so delighted to be talking to you today. Well, I think the selection committee was very frank with me about the state of Slaco, which frankly was not the best at the time that I took over. It had been a couple of years, a little bit more, since Slaco had been able to afford to have an executive director or any full-time staff, and they were in need of almost everything that a nonprofit organization needs. So I think that I went in with appropriate expectations. I was hoping, however, that we would be able to resurrect the organization, make it lively, update it to the current century, involve the young people who are very much interested in the neighborhoods in St. Louis and living in the neighborhoods in St. Louis. So those are some of the things that I really hoped would happen when I began the role as executive director of Slaco. Well, I think we did really well, and the credit really belongs to the board of directors and especially the board chairs who kept Slaco alive during the time when there was no full-time staff. Those people really deserve all the credit for Slaco being able to come back because they kept the hope alive and the dream alive that in some fashion the financial resources would become available again to revitalize Slaco. So I think that we grew Slaco during my term from about 6 real neighborhood organizations to 30 real neighborhood associations as members of Slaco. So that's a very high percentage of growth, as you can see. Really, that went along with my expectation and my hope. In fact, exceeded my expectation a little bit, but didn't exceed my hope because I always hope and am optimistic for the very best for St. Louis neighborhoods. I certainly hope that Slaco moving forward will continue to grow, will continue to add new neighborhood associations, will even help to organize neighborhood associations where no viable organization exists right now, because that's such important work. No neighborhood should have to go without a good neighborhood association in the kind of environment that we have in the city of St. Louis. So I certainly hope that work continues. I hoped at the time when I started at Slaco that each neighborhood could really move ahead, of course, in improving its physical condition, economic conditions, social relationships, and so forth. Some of that was realized, but we have to realize that the city neighborhoods operate in the midst of a very large system. No single neighborhood can control all of the elements of that system. So the work is always slower than those of us who like to get things done would like to see. However, I had the hope that all or most of the neighborhoods would be in better physical condition when I left than when I came. And I don't know the extent to which that's realized actually, but I certainly think that better and more alert neighborhood associations is step one in stabilizing neighborhoods and improving them. Thank you so much, Slaco friends. I hope that this is only the beginning of another 40 years of wonderful success for St. Louis neighborhoods and for Slaco as an organization. Truly, you can accomplish a lot more as a coalition than you can as a disparate collection of small neighborhood associations. So keep it up.
My name is Marjorie Robinson, and at Slaco, I was a member for a long time. I'm trying to remember what all that I do. I feel real good about it, and I'm glad to get an award.
Yeah.
I'm sure I done something, but I can't remember. Thank you so much, Slaco, for the award.
Okay, thank you. I began with Slaco even prior to its beginning in I believe it was 77 or 78 at St. Mark's Rectory in North St. Louis, where I met with Mary Dolan, the organizer, and Tom Gaudette, the late Tom Gaudette, the organizing consultant trained by AF, came from Chicago down to St. Louis, sponsored by the Human Rights Office and Mr. Jim Herning. And it was a conversation, there was a couple of conversations, one there and one at Racino's restaurant, to talk about the possibilities of organizing in St. Louis. And that's how I got initially invited to participate in it, even prior to the time when Jerry was founding Slaco as an organization, which we're very proud of him and the organization itself. My first real issue to work on as a pastor at St. Mark's, associate pastor actually, was with the LRA properties in St. Louis. And so the St. Louis Post-Dispatch carried this article the other day about 12,000 properties, and there we went down to City Hall. I believe Gina Ryan was their organizer at the time, went down to City Hall and protested, carrying a bouquet of weeds because that was the problem. The weeded lots where buildings are vacant lots, and what really sparked it was the finding of a dead body on one of the lots. And so we went down there to protest and began that as a campaign for Slaco. The thing I guess that I'm most proud of and was actually when I was at St. Barbara's as the pastor, was working with Michael Savage as our organizer, of bringing Shop and Save to our neighborhood, because we were a virtual food desert, as they now call it, and lack of shopping opportunities for people who lived in the neighborhood were just rampant. And so I remember a couple meetings, again,